All right, Ben, Battery Innovation Center. I'm going to get that name right one of these times.
We'll send you a shirt.
If you haven't checked out our video talking about the specifics of all the Milwaukee batteries and batteries in general, go check out that video. But we kind of came up with an idea after that video yesterday to get out all the tools and just grab each one of them, and I wanted to get your input on what you thought might be the best battery for the tool. Now, of course, Milwaukee has kits, and they send the tool with a recommended battery, but I'm interested on your input on, can we improve performance? Which tools do you think will see improved performance by using a 3.0 or maybe an XC battery on an M12, or if using an HO high output or an HD battery, putting that extra weight on the tool, pros and cons, which one you think. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to dig into this and figure out which one makes sense. So I'm going to start with the M12 stuff, and then we'll get into some of the heavier duty M18. But this is essentially the lineup. Obsessed Garage chosen tools. I think I'm missing 4 or 5. I have to do the nailers, I have to do the table saws, and then there's a couple of other tools, like there's an extra grinder that I don't have here that I'm waiting for. It was on back order, and there's one other fuel half-inch right angle impact. But other than that, this is pretty much the setup. It ends up being 48 tools. I don't know how much money yet, but I'm interested to add it up. So let's start with our little, this is the higher torque versus the lower torque surge. So this is the traditional fuel. This is model number 2553-20. It comes as a kit for a couple $100 with two 2.0 batteries. And this is my workhorse. You can see this has been my tool that I've had for however long this tool has been out. I've had it. But what do you think? What battery would you use if you were going to grab one out of your cabinet for this tool?
In that case, actually, the 2.0 is gets you the maximum power that's out of the tool. Mm-hmm. The advantage of jumping to a 3.0, what you're going to get there is extended use. So if you're going to be out, wrenching on the car, taking, maybe doing an interior, taking parts out, mm-hmm. You're going to be out, working outside, putting down some deck boards, or replacing some deck boards. The 3.0 jump is actually good just for runtime. So
you're talking about an XC?
Actually, no, just the jumping up to they make a 3.0 the compact.
Just the CP 3.0?
Yeah.
So the torque, we're not going to gain horsepower, if you will, out of this by adding more. Like if I threw on an XC 6.0, you don't think this tool isn't going to?
Not enough that you're going to notice it in the usage. The advantage there is just the compactness and lightness of the tool for what you're using it for. If you're gonna run super long all day, you'd probably pull out an 18 for that. So. Mm-hmm.
So then the surge tool. So these tools, this confused me a lot when I was going through the original specs. Because Milwaukee provides us with peak torque, average torque, nut busting torque, average peak torque. They have all these different specifications. So this tool is a hydraulic tool. It has a hydraulic gear set on the outlet or the output, which makes it a little bit quieter when driving in a screw. Same thing on this 2.0.
Yep.
Any reason why? Would there be any added benefit to going down to a 1.5? I mean, there wouldn't be any benefit to it.
Not really. And my understanding on those is the 1.5 actually, you would notice some performance change a little bit.
Got it. Okay. And remember,
that's because of heat. Back to that kind of heat time is because it falls off, so that voltage is going to fall off a little sooner. So you're going to pick up some heat.
So we talked a lot about the main driver for performance of a battery is keeping it cool.
Yeah.
And so sizing it appropriately so that it's not overheating the battery.
Yeah.
And so I think, so if I was going to grab this and I knew I was going to be driving in screw after screw after screw for like 2 hours straight, then it might make sense to throw a bigger capacity battery, keeping the battery cool, keeping the average performance of the tool more consistent, I guess. Right?
Yeah. Correct.
So then these guys are quite a bit different in that these tools, the stubbies, have much higher torque output. So what do you think about these? So would we see a huge benefit of doing an XC battery on these? What do you think?
As you start to get into bulkier tools, again, there I would probably say, I know they match them up with a 2.0 typically. I would, frankly, on mine personally, I start with 3.0s, the regular compact 3.0s. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to be using those in a little bit more demanding, ironically, I use a lot of those under the hood for me, on boat trailers and all kinds of unique ones. I wind up running the 3.0 at the start, and then I jump to the extended capacity or the larger for what I'd say those kind of nut busting situations. So, rusty, tough stuff. I make sure that I always have that. Again, that's especially if I'm going to be doing multiples of those. That gives me, again, the ability to control that heat, gives me all the maximum capability, and it also gives me some longevity in there.
What about, and this will go the same with all these tools, so what about, so there's an XC 3.0, 4.0, and 6.0. What am I going to notice, if anything, from the higher amp hour output? Is it just longevity?
Yeah, mainly longevity. You're going to get some measurable temp if you're using it extended time. If you're in a warmer environment, so inside of a controlled environment like this, but if you're outside, it's pretty hot. Again, that more capacity is kind of like having more people, stronger people. So, gives you the ability to do more work, less heat, easier. So, yeah, I mean, me personally, I would say it's kind of a measurable or kind of a minimal impact to jump. If you get a 3.0 to 4.0, 5.0, some of that's just kind of what value you can get on the battery because they're pretty much the same size. So you've already got kind of the weight and size. If you get a good deal, there's packages and stuff to get a couple 4.0s or 5.0s. You might as well do it, but you're not a major change.
I mean, is there any disadvantage to doing the bigger 6.0 version? I mean,
higher cost, and when you go to charge them,
more.
Slightly longer charge time, but it's not massively different either.
Got it. So these tools, we might see a benefit. So when you're purchasing, would it, like if you're doing this half-inch stubby, this is 220 foot-pounds of what they call nut-busting torque.
Yeah.
So it's probably 110, foot-pounds of average torque output of this particular tool. Does it make sense to buy this as a tool only and then get your own 3.0 batteries, or would you still buy this as a kit and get a couple of 2.0s and then maybe supplement a 3?
If you don't already have some of the batteries, I would definitely recommend, because the kits are a great value, to get a battery, and it gives you always a backup, even if it's a little lower capacity. But ideally, I almost always find that I buy kits when I started out, and to make sure I got a good spread of batteries, and then I started adding specialty batteries. So I said, hey, I know these tools, I know they're better when I use an extended capacity or a high output. So I bought a few of those to be able to mix them in.
And we found in talking to the batteries yesterday, if you can get a 2-pack, or even a 10-pack of the XC5, the XC 5.0s, that you can save quite a bit of money doing it that way. So then some of these little specialty tools, I think I know the answer to this. This little guy doesn't have a lot of output. A 2.0 batteries, what it comes with, should be sufficient. Same thing with a screwdriver. This doesn't have a ton of torque. Also comes with a 2.0, and that's pretty standard with all the fuel stuff they come with in the M12 line. Comes with a standard 2.0. Now, what do you think about hammer drill? Because this obviously is going to be run longer than most of the other ones where you're just driving in a screw or breaking a nut loose. What do you think about this tool?
So if you're using it, in a standard drill, if you're talking kind of I would say under 3/8 for most folks. In fact, the smaller drills will actually run. Ironically, they'll run a half-inch bit, which is kind of staggering to watch a little M12. Yeah. The bit is bigger than the drill itself. Yeah. If you're running kind of 3/8 and below, that 2.0, that 3.0, the standard capacity is going to be perfectly fine. And most users probably aren't going to notice the difference. But if you're actually going to use it in hammer mode, it puts a lot of strain. That's a lot of torque that's on that motor. And it's amazing that they've made that 12 capable of that. And personally, I put in a couple lifts in the floor. Intentionally using my M12, but I found that the 3.0 compact got really, really hot, enough to hurt your hand. But the extended capacity, I finished out almost a dozen bolts in the floor with that guy, and it was warm, but it wasn't anything as a battery guy I was worried about.
So this isn't so much about you don't think we'll gain performance by going bigger. We'll just gain. We won't gain as much heat.
Yeah, you don't gain as much heat. You do gain a little bit of performance. It's there because you'll notice the speed. The speed at which I could hammer drill did hold up. So if you're on that hammer drill mode, or you're going to be, if you think you're going to use it to drill a bunch of half-inch holes or even a few half-inch holes, I would definitely be putting the extended capacity battery on it versus a compact. It's just a smarter thing to do.
So these come with 2.0s. and then you have the option to add or buy your XC batteries. Like in your cabinet, I mean, do you have more of the compacts or more of the XCs, or do you keep an equal amount?
I keep about an equal amount. Ironically, every tool I keep, we talked yesterday about leaving the charge and discharge. I keep always a battery plugged in it at less than 100% state of charge. It's always a 3.0 compact. So I think I've got a couple 2.0s, that are laying around, but I keep 3.0s. And then anything else that's in my cabinet, I keep a fair amount of the extended. So if I find that that's not going to be enough, I grab an extended capacity.
Now, what about all the wrenches? So these are all, 25 to 40 foot-pounds of torque capability. They come with generally a 2.0. So the long reach comes with a single 2.0. The short ones come with 2. I think they probably do that to keep price points at a certain level.
Yep.
But these are all basically the same motor, and they're all going to have the same basic output, maybe a little bit of electronic tweaks. What do you think on these? 2.0 battery sufficient?
2.0 is sufficient. I find just because it's nice. I actually own all but the new guy. In fact, I've got one of those on order. I put 3.0s in them. I like to start there. I find that I don't run the extended. Frankly, if I need the extended, I'm hoping it's in a location where I can get to one of the bigger angled tool or one of the pistol style tools instead of the angles.
Yeah.
I hope that it's that because again, with the 3.0s, I mean the extended, you start to lose the advantage of. They're compact for what they are. They get you into a lot of great spaces. And with the 3.0, you get about everything you need. And generally, you're not doing it's not like nut after nut after nut after nut like you would lug nuts. You may be doing a few, but that's the advantage here is you're trying to keep that compact, power to weight. That 3.0 CP is going to be ideal in that case.
So it sounds to me like I'm going to be begging Milwaukee to start sending me Obsessed Garage exclusive kits with all 3.0.
I mean, the 2.0, there's nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong, but I think that could be a differentiator for sure. The other one is again, you're right. They're doing it for a price point. There is that battery tech that's in the 3.0 is the newer, I'll say better version. It's the newer, more capable version. It's the slightly newer technology. So, but they're doing that for price point.
So you think these have the 20 millimeter batteries in them, or
they're still all of them are 18650. So yeah.
So when we say or explain that again,
18 millimeter in diameter by 65 millimeter in length. So.
And what's inside of these tools, if you haven't watched the battery video, are these guys. So there's 3 of these puppies in there. So explain to me. We keep throwing this 2.0, 3.0 out. What does that mean? It's
amp hours. So it's just the amp hour capacity. So if you think about it, it would say, I could do 3 amps of work for an hour, or 6 amps, for 2 hours, or if I'm doing, 6 amps for half an hour. If I do 1.5 amps, I can do that for 2 hours. So it's amp hour rating, and it doesn't work out exactly that way, but that's enough for most of the users to understand kind of how amp hour capacity works.
And how does that translate to the real world? I mean, that's just the standard spec, right? It's
correct.
It's how you would compare one battery to another. How you being in the industry, how accurate, like I've done all these pressure washer tests, and of course all the specifications are bogus. So how could I take a Milwaukee, a DeWalt, a Makita, a Bosch? Can I take the amp hour rating to the bank?
So I use a phrase, and I'm probably going to get some nasty comments for this, but we use it a lot. We kind of say today, and as a battery guy, I'm picking on my own, so it's kind of lawyers, liars, and battery suppliers, is you'll find that everybody on their data sheets for batteries, Milwaukee, frankly, actually does a really, really good job. A couple of the top-end tools, and unfortunately, probably can't mention by name. We have to be cautious, with certain things that we can say, but you will find that, yes, some folks grossly overstate their amp hours. There's probably some tool brands that you're aware of that are, fall under, different off-brand names that when they say, 1.5 or 2 amp hour battery, it may be in like a perfect scenario inside the lab, but you'll never ever see that. And it was intentionally tested for that. We do have a lot of customers that send us batteries and want them tested, and they say, hey, I want to hit 10,000 cycles. And we say, well, in order to get 10,000 cycles, that performance characteristic, no one could ever use it that way. And they're like, we don't care. We just want to be able to say it gets 10,000 cycles.
So they put that in the fine print.
They don't even put it in the fine print. Frankly, that's what disappoints users. So when we get to, the day in and day out user, that is grabbing the tool, that's what makes it hard is, you buy a 1.5 amp hour from Milwaukee to Makita, Harbor Freight, and you go run them and you're like, why is there such a disparity? Some of that is in the performance of the tool itself.
Sure.
But ironically, a lot of it's in the battery. And even the battery companies, the actual individual cell suppliers you buy from, Samsung, Sony, Panasonic, Lithfire, there's there's a bajillion suppliers out there. Some are even repackaging batteries. They don't grade them all the same. You buy a 1900 milliamp hour battery and you expect to test it and get 1890 to 1910 or 1920, and you'll test them and you're going to get anywhere from 1500 milliamp hours. We've had some of the better ones say 1900 and they go 20, 2000 milliamp hours, 2100 milliamp hours. They're actually underrated.
Yeah.
So they're intentionally, they're trying to do that to make sure that you're guaranteed that.
Maintaining the reputation.
Yeah.
And so now we have these are the newer tools, but this is looks the same, but these have quite a bit more torque.
Yeah, they're on par with their pistols.
Yeah, so these are going to be in the category of the stubby stuff. 3.0 on this. You want to keep it small and light if you can.
Yeah, 3.0, but man, with the capability, again, knowing it is a bigger tool, and it's going to be not as compact as the others, but frankly, better reach, a better access than a pistol grip tool. And you get the right angle ability. I would be running, actually on my tool, I'll say that it's probably going to wind up with an XC on it in the cabinet, and I'll probably run a 4.0 or larger on it because it's on par with the bigger impacts for them. So I'm not sure. I haven't looked exactly what Milwaukee recommends, but I'm going to keep at least a 4.0 or a 5.0.
I mean, it comes with a 2.0
extended on it.
That's what it comes. This is what it comes with.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're trying to keep that compact. They're also trying to keep the value. It's going to function. I mean, I don't want any users to think they're going to be like, oh crap, the tool's not going to get it. I think for what you're going to find users, if they use that routinely, mechanics and others are going to use it kind of day in and day out. They're going to like that bigger battery on there.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk some of the other more obscure non-automotive tools back here that we have that I've been playing with. So let's talk things that have longer run times, like a cutoff tool, or a hacksaw, where you may run it for 2, 3, 4 minutes straight if you're cutting, a wall or something like that. Notice these come with XC 4.0 batteries.
Yeah.
So they come with not even the lowest capacity XC, but the higher amp hour rating 4.0s. I mean, is that appropriate? Am I going to gain anything by putting a 6.0 on something like this, you think?
Runtime, you're going to be back to runtime on that. Again, if you're going to be using it, you think about a tradesman, if you're going to use it heavily through the day, or even a homeowner is going to be doing a demo and is going to use it for several hours to tear apart a bathroom, for example. I would definitely stick with what they've got. You might bump up that tool. You'll find that you definitely would not want to run one of the smallers. They will run. You can run the standard series, the non-parallel series. It'll function. If you're doing a short, I see guys that use those like the open crates, or they like to use them to unpack things, unboxings. I love the guys that use some of those tools for unboxings. No reason to have an extended, power capacity in there. But in general, you're going to find that at least a 4.0 or larger is going to be ideal.
So you think we'll see a performance decrease if we put a CP battery on a tool like this? If
you're going to put any demand on it at all. So, and again, if you look at the hacksaw fuel, they're intended to replace, they're intended to be on par with their big hacksaw in a lot of ways. In fact, I actually own every single one of those. I always grab the hand hacksaws except for major demolition. I demolitioned my whole bathroom not too long ago. I used my 12 and my 18 with the extended capacity batteries on them, and man, I was amazed by what they do.
Same thing, circular saw type, where this is going to run. I would think heat would be the main thing.
That's correct.
Something like this, because the run times are going to be longer. You'll be leaning into something like this.
Yeah,
cutting tile or something.
Yeah, when you're cutting tile and others, the amount of torque feedback it puts on the motor and the heat that's generated, that only helps the battery, and frankly, it helps the tool by having, in any electric tool, the voltage is what you want, and if I don't have the voltage, I make it up with current. So I still need the power output. So how do I get the power? Higher voltage will actually run cooler. The more current I put, I got to push that through the resistance. That makes everything hotter. So ideally, you want higher voltage. That's why you use the higher voltage tools. They're going to typically run cooler.
a bigger tool. So I think one of the messages here is if you're doing something more, bigger, or more bigger. If you're doing something more sophisticated or a bigger project where you're cutting 2x8s or 4x4s or something, then that's where, and it's not that this tool has so much more output, it's that it has the capacity to dissipate heat.
Yep.
And maintain the batteries better, and your tool's going to last longer and all of that.
Yeah, that's a big chunk of it. Now, within the hacksaws you look, there's a little longer stroke. They have a little longer stroke, M12 to M18.
Yep.
I'd say for most users, it's kind of marginal. For a professional user, they are going to notice that. But I know a lot of professionals like the 12 and will deal with the shorter stroke length because they like the little bit lighter, of the 12. They'll, that performance cut is down a little bit, but the weight, and I'm going to have it in my hand all day long. An electrician or whatever loves that. So,
what about? So this is a rotary tool. Well, this is interesting because the base Milwaukee. So they don't make this in a brushless fuel tool.
Not yet. I hate that, but I'd love to have a fuel on it personally. But
so this would be like a Dremel branded replacement with a battery. Now these come with 1.5s, and that's part of the branding and the pricing and all of that. But wouldn't you want to run a bigger, a higher capacity battery and something like this?
I've used it for all kinds of stuff. The 1.5, if you look in my cabinet, a 1.5 is what I've left in it since the day I've had it, and I've used it for all kinds of stuff. Yeah, and I find for what the capability of the tool being a non-brushed, that the 1.5 I've never found it lacking inside that tool. So.
And this isn't a tool you're leaning into. This is a precision tool.
Yeah, it's not an angle grinder. It's a scalpel. I mean, that's what it's intended for.
So die grinder. They do make fuel. They also make this in a straight version now, which everybody yelled at me because you didn't have it. Well, it wasn't in the catalog, people. Imagine
you bought every other tool.
Imagine trying to figure this all out with you got to use something. And so these come with a 2.0. I couldn't see a real advantage of having more capacity on something like this.
Nope. 2.0 is on par if you got a 3.0 in the cabinet that you picked up for some other reason. Won't hurt it, but you're not going to notice a big difference.
And then what about something like that would have an extended run time? We have a heat gun we'll talk about in a minute, but this is a soldering iron. Wouldn't because this is going to run longer. I don't know what the draw is on something like this to produce heat. But I would think that you would want to run a big battery in this, wouldn't you?
I'd run a 3.0 in it, the compact 3.0. Again, you maintain that compactness, but you get the long run time. So, guys that are underneath the dash of a car, you get professional audio guys, car audio, and boat audio that like to do that, or lighting. They love that tool, and that 3.0 allows you to make sure you can stay under that dash or under that hood for a lot longer.
I think this thing's cool.
They're fantastic. I have one myself. Used it for a lot of quick mods, but mine has a 3.0 in it all the time.
Okay, got it. Same thing, multi-tool. Again, this is going to run high RPM for long periods of time. It comes with a 1.5 because this is a brush tool or a regular base tool. 3.0 if you can.
Yep.
Got it. I'm going to be selling lots of 3.0 batteries. I like that. Last couple of M12 tools. Now this is the camera. I suspect this isn't very demanding on power, but it comes with the 1.5. It comes with a single battery.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that this is going to run this little LCD screen here, no problem.
Yeah, most users, when you look at that, you're going to be doing quick inspections. If you actually, I've seen a couple home inspectors that love those. They use them to go around and do, prior to realty.
Yeah.
They'll put the extended just because they're going to use it all day long.
Yeah.
But most of the time, a 1.5 is going to get you everything you need.
Got it. And then same thing, flashlight. Flashlights come with 1.5, a little LED here, but I mean, if you wanted to run a big battery in it, run it all day, I guess, you'd get more output from it. I like this thing. This is one of the things that surprised me that I like this tool, having this light. It's kind of a neat, it's actually aluminum.
Yeah, as a safety backup, it's actually pretty nice for guys that keep it in your tool cabinet.
You have a bunch of batteries.
Have the big battery on it. I mean, you can keep the compact if it's just going to be your the dog light, as people say. Just to be able to walk out and shine, see where the dog's at. Mm-hmm. But which keeps it pretty compact. It is a bigger light, but the extended's nice just to always have it as your that safety light, if you will.
All right, so let's talk M18 here. So M18 has quite a bit more choice in battery capacities and abilities. In fact, the M18s have HO batteries, which have a different, we talked about, have a 20 millimeter battery versus a 20, what do you call it?
18 millimeter, yeah. 18650 to a 21700.
21700.
Yeah, 21700.
So 21 millimeter battery, and that's what some of the high output batteries are. So they have 3 different types. So there's 4 different types. They have CP, then they have CP high output. You can see the footprint difference. So this has the bigger internal batteries. Yep. Then they have XC. So XC. Then they have XCHO. So these have the bigger capacity internal batteries, and then they have HD. So I guess 5 different types of batteries, and then they have different sizes. So they have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 12. And then in the CP series, they have 1.5, 2, and 3.
And I think they're working on maybe a 15 or something, I heard as well at some point. So.
And then above that, there's the MX line, which they have, 400 amp hour batteries and stuff like that, big giant monsters.
Power your house with it, yeah.
Yeah, right. So let's kind of run through the tools. Same story here. Now, these tools aren't rated at any more specific torque output than the M12 tools. Why is that? How is that? I would think bigger battery, higher voltage, you would get more torque, more output.
No, what you're going to get is that sustained performance over that time. So the M18 is going to guarantee that you can do that capability, that performance A-list longer. So.
Got it. So I'm still driving a screw in the same speed, the same torque, just with less heat, less heat,
yeah, and again more sustainment of that. So you're going to find at least a little longer run time in general. So not double or anything, but it's going to be 10-20% longer.
Now these come with 5.0s. What happens if I put a 12 amp hour monster on here?
You can do that. I mean, obviously you're going to get a lot more run time, but you're from a performance perspective, you're going to pick up marginal points, if you will.
So how does that work? There's a chipset in here. There's a chipset in here. They communicate with one another. So what you're telling me is that Milwaukee, the tool is smart enough to know that, okay, I've got a different source. Some tools. Yeah,
so some of the tools work where they're smarter and they know what battery system they're working with. So they adapt with the battery itself.
Okay, got it. So 5.0s on these are sufficient. Buy the kit. And this is like the standard.
That's kind of the gold standard. Again, if you need extended run time, at least in the smaller series, you can throw a bigger if you've got them, but you're starting to add a lot of weight to them.
What about the hammer drill? This is the old one. The new one, the new fancy one, I sold it already, and I've been waiting for my stock to show up here, my order to show up. But this hammer drill, I find this one gets hot most, because if I'm going to drill like for this lift, I'm drilling, giant
into the floor,
3/4 inch, holes into the flooring, with a bit and and a handle on the end of it. What do you think? I mean, these come with 5.0s. Is there a significant advantage to getting yourself a 6.0 or a 12.0 battery?
I actually like the HD batteries on those. The 5.0s will do what most users, but if you're going to start hammer drilling with it, the same thing you saw is it does get warmer. Where going to the newer, so the high output with it, which has the 21700 battery in it, is actually kind of a step up. I've noticed that there is a little bit better capability by doing that, which I think is why Milwaukee brought them out. They're tuned for some of the other tools. But frankly, if I'm going to be using a hammer drill, I'm going to probably grab that extended output or the high output battery versus the compact.
So here's your size difference, something like that. So this is a 5.0 versus a 6.0. You would think, considerably, not a whole lot heavier, not a whole lot more expensive, but here's what it looks like on the tool. So running something like this, what am I doing? Oh shoot!
Yeah, and I don't use the clips on mine a lot, but
you'd have to remove that to get that bigger battery on there.
Good fun. I hadn't looked at that. I've got clips on my little guys, but I haven't used them on the other ones.
That.
So
well, we figured out something new here.
That's interesting. I guess I didn't know.
This clip works. Now this is an older tool, so I bet you the new tool has the clip that can accept. Yep, look at that.
Okay, so they've changed the clip. Great. I'm going to need some new clips if I ever use them.
Yeah, we figured something out. Yeah, so you want to make sure that
Yeah,
you have
considering
an older
the
tool.
length of that, the length of the cell has grown from 65 millimeter to 70. You got to take up that excess packaging.
Yeah, so
That
you could
explains it.
you could simply just take the clip off.
Yeah.
But
I have seen them. I did see that now they offer the clips independently, so that may be why they do that.
now we get into the bigger, heavier torque stuff. So compact, mid torque, high torque. What about these? Is this where we'll see the maximum performance benefit from running a bigger battery?
You're running the bigger battery. Ironically on these, I've seen for simple usage, the compact high output is actually really, really good. That again runs the 2700. It's almost on par. Personally, in fact, this is a test we're going to be doing just to learn a little bit more. But it appears like, and we need to validate this, that the 21700 capable batteries, so the HD batteries, are actually on par or slightly better than the 5.0s. So and they're a little bit smaller. So, but if not, again, if you're going to be using, so the smaller guy here, a 5.0, a 6.0 is really good. But some of the new high outputs actually are right on par, and it actually makes the tool a little more compact, a little lighter as well.
So
You're just taking advantage. Batteries are evolving all the time, and that's why they did the new cell. Is that we increased the output by 20 to 30%. In fact, with some of the new chemistry that's going inside of it, they're getting almost a 40%. So the size of this, this is the 18650, but the 21700 didn't increase by double. We're starting to get getting almost 50% more output out of a slightly larger cell and better temperature. So
not a whole heck of a lot of increase in footprint size.
that's correct. Yeah.
So same thing with these guys. Throw a 6.0, or even if you wanted to lighten it up a little bit, you could do a CP 3.0 on it.
Yeah, if you got emergency roadside and you're going to pop a couple lug nuts, if not, what I see, kind of the gold standard, people run the 5.0s. That's what they come with. In fact, if you look at all my vehicles, my tow vehicles, my truck, and others, I keep two 5.0s in the one with that exact tool, and then I keep a couple 6.0s because I had them with the other one. So, but I'm actually starting to swap even more of them out to the high outputs. But not the 12.0 is that's a beast. If I'm doing heavy duty, if I'm a truck mechanic or stuff, I'm amazed you walk in and watch the truck and the off-road mechanics. They love those things. You're replacing air tools with those guys.
Have you noticed the one-key tools? Have you done any testing on those with battery draw? Does it, having Wi-Fi output, does that cause any issues?
I would say, if you check it, I'm sure there's a little bit of difference in how long the tool lasts because you've got a little more work going on electronically, but not anything that any user is going to notice.
Got it. So now let's talk about the tools that have more draw or more demand, like a circular saw. Notice the rear handle M18 monster. This is 7 1/4 inch circular saw. It comes with stock in HD 12.0.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
On that tool, you're trying to compete with the worm drive, the Milwaukee worm drive that they had, planer, the planer cutter. That you're going to need a 12.0 in it. Anything else you run will run it, but you get into the type of materials that's made for. You're probably not going to find a general user using that just every day to cut a 1/2 inch 4x8 sheet of lumber. That's what that's for. The general user, kind of the semi-pro or the mid-pro. This is a guy that's going to be contractor. That's where your 12.0 is your go-to for that guy.
Because the 6.5 inch version, you can even see the motor size difference quite a bit smaller. Comes with 5.0s. So would I see a benefit to throw an high output battery on something like this if I'm ripping full sheets of plywood?
You would. So what I've noticed is kind of like the 3/8, maybe up to a 1/2 inch. The 5.0 is plenty capable, but you're going to start to notice across that sheet if you're cutting long rips, it doesn't bog out, but it definitely slows down a little bit. You can hear that pitch change, a little performance change. I've actually the XE, the high output 6.0s have changed that. So if you're going to be somebody who's cutting kind of routinely, 1/2 inch, 3/4 plywood, using that, not day in and day out, but you're going to be doing a small project. I probably would start the 5.0s, but I think I'd have a 6.0, high output available for it.
So I chose, because I don't think that I'm going to use this all that often, but I would like to have this nifty little bandsaw thing in my cabinet. They have 5 or 6 different versions. It was interesting. This is the only tool that now it's a newer tool, but this is the only tool that I found that comes with, it's sized from Milwaukee with a high output 3.0 battery. And obviously they're doing it to keep it lighter and more compact. That seems pretty appropriate to me based on all the stuff you're telling me, that
Correct.
This would be a battery that you'd use. You could always grab a 5.0 battery if you needed to. I'd be interested to see performance difference between a CP 3.0 and an XC 5.0. I would guess their bench on the bench might be pretty similar.
Yeah, they should be pretty close. What you notice, again, if you're going to be cutting a little harder metal with it, if you're doing PVC, it was intended for a lot of different things where you're cutting simple PVC, maybe thin metal. You're not going to notice the difference. You get into some thicker metal or cutting some small tube stock, you can do that. So, And actually, there's, for both of the bandsaws, there's a couple companies out there that actually offer a table conversion. So you can actually set it up and use it like a little micro bandsaw.
Yeah.
I have one on the M18, and it's fantastic. I love it in the shop to be able to walk over and have a little compact bandsaw. I mean, it's a little tabletop that you can go over and cut simple stuff. Very nice to do.
One thing we missed was the under the bonnet light, and they send this with XC batteries. I would guess because just the sheer amount of LEDs, right?
Sheer amount of LEDs, and actually that one draws a fair amount of current. So if you use it with the smaller batteries, it will run. It definitely will not run as long, but you're going to notice the battery gets pretty warm.
Now things like saws, like Sawzall, Hacksaw, Jigsaw, these all come with 5.0 batteries. I mean, that seems pretty appropriate, doesn't it?
Yeah, and again, I wouldn't call it legacy, but that's what they've been doing. They are kind of the gold standard. You're seeing, though, the opportunity to actually use the 3.0 high outputs are actually kind of about the same. So it gives you a chance to compact that tool a little bit. Now, again, you drop a little overall capacity, but you wind up getting pretty much the same performance. So.
And then if you were using it all day, break out your big boy, your 6.0 or your 8.0, your XC 8.0 battery or something like that.
Yeah, your high output. The advantage here is you're getting into the newest battery technology. So you buy the kits, you get the 5.0s, but frankly, if you're going to add batteries on, adding 5.0s and others, they're not outdated. They're great 6.0s. But if you can jump to the high outputs for some of these a little more demanding tools, you're gonna stay a little future-proofed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What about grinders? Are these demanding tools?
Yeah, most of the time.
I mean, you see it comes with a 6.0, XE 6.0. No, this is the bigger boy. This is the 6-inch version. I'll also be carrying the 4-inch version. But my guess is they're sizing it with this because it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of their newer tools. I think what the trend you're going to see, you notice that 6.0 is starting to become what the 5.0 was. Is a lot of the extended capacity. The XC 5.0 is kind of their their legacy, or their that standard part is now. And again, I can't comment exactly for Milwaukee, but it seems like the 6.0 high output with the new battery in it is becoming kind of that
when they launch
evolution, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at some of the newest tools seem to be coming with it, and they see the disadvantage, of course, is the size. It does add quite a bit of bulk,
Correct.
A little bit of weight as well, and then same thing with the die grinder. This one, I would assume, this is one I would want to reach for. So this is the heat gun.
Yeah.
If I have a big old HD battery, I might be inclined to grab this just so I can run it all day.
Yeah.
It adds a lot of weight, kind of throws off the balance a little bit, but I think I'd be inclined to run this with a big old battery on it. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So as a guy, I have done vinyl wrapping and did a lot of tenting and stuff. I'll be honest, I actually would have the little high output compact, or I'd have one of the compact batteries on it. If you look inside my cabinet, I run a compact, and I just keep a few batteries available because I like that it's small and light. I don't mind changing the battery out on that one because usually those operations, even if you're wrapping a car, you're not using it non-stop. You are, but there's breaking periods in there.
Or you can go swap a battery.
Yeah, where you can swap batteries out. And you get the advantage of being so light and compact as a guy who was, dragging. It's like polishers dragging out the extension cords. You got the cord over you, with the heat gun before. To have that little light compact thing that you're almost clipping on your belt half the time or in your apron is fantastic. So.
And this is the older version because I've got it. The non-branded, it's just XC. These are 3.0s, I believe. This is prior to them actually giving it a number or name. Last couple of tools, I think these are pretty self-explanatory. This doesn't come with a battery. This is the router. I think you'd throw whatever you got, right?
Yeah, throw whatever you got. I actually had been keeping a 5.0 on mine, just the regular, but I found it a little big. I actually went to the high output 3.0s.
Yeah.
So that's what I threw on it. Just those palm routers, it just makes it a little more palmable, if you will. So.
Yeah, to me it seems like this, the the high output version makes these, because I don't know, I always just felt like I'm not getting as much out of the tool when I did the regular CP batteries.
You don't. In almost all the CP batteries, they will function and you will get good performance. I mean, Milwaukee's known for that. And you probably will still get leading performance, if you will, but you won't max the performance. So.
And then this is a recommended XC tool by them. But again, if you were sanding, you could throw a CP 3.0 on this as well. Kind of neat. All right, so let's draw some conclusions here. Let me draw my conclusions on what I'm hearing you tell me. So if I'm taking cues from what you're recommending, I mean, the 3.0 batteries, I mean, these are probably just the legacy battery, just kind of rebranded. It's the regular XC battery. And then, of course, they came out with the 4.0s and 5.0s. So to me, I'm not buying any 3s, 4s, and I'm probably not buying any 5s. Because they come with the tools generally.
Correct.
So I'm always going to have, in my case, I'm going to have a freaking dozen of these things in the cabinet.
The guys love them. I mean, again, it's become a kind of gold standard. It's one of those, they know it and they love it. So.
But if you're buying any supplements, and depending on, if you're doing table saws and you're doing the big sawzalls, like the super sawzall, you're doing the big, 7.25 inch circular saw. Maybe having a couple of the HD batteries makes sense, like the HD9 or HD12. But what I'm hearing is that, I'm like in this 6.0, 8.0 sweet spot. To me, it would make sense to grab 8.0 because the footprint and the weight is pretty much the same. Grabbing a few of the 3.0, CP batteries, so I have, maybe a couple of 2-packs of each of those. So get a 2-pack of these and a 2-pack of those. They don't make. So maybe that makes the 6.0 make more sense because they do sell this in a 2-pack, which saves you like $50, over buying them individually. And then inside of the M12 line, I think I'm going to grab myself, maybe 4 of each of these, and then I've got a nice supplement if I want to get the max out of the tool depending on the job. I think that clearly, for what I'm doing, I'm going to get just fine performance out of what they size with the tool.
Yeah, and like I said, I think you're seeing the evolution that the 5.0 is and again, whether that's intentional or not, I won't speak for them, but I feel like the 6.0 high output, because of the newer battery technology, is going to kind of evolve that 5.0, the standard XC, which is, again, fantastic battery, does a great job, but that 6.0 is just a great step up.
What about the possibility of, let's say that you didn't have infinite funds? Would you sell off your 5.0 batteries to finance your purchase of your high output stuff?
If I'm using some more of the demanding tools, probably. If I've got a few more of those draw demand tools, I know I'm going to be using them at kind of we'll call it a mid to a high level user most of the time. Yeah. I'll be honest, I've got a cabinet full of 5.0s, but I've been quickly evolving those, and as I sell used tools to folks, I'm trying to weed out the 5.0s myself, not because there's anything wrong with them. They're fantastic, but that 6.0 has just becoming that gold standard now for them.
There's something about, it's like I'm hoarding batteries. There's something about seeing batteries lined up, right? You have extra batteries, even though, the darn tool works all day on anything I'm doing, it works pretty much all day. And so having all these excess batteries, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, if you're a guy that's working with your hands for a living, you're using these tools all day, every day, I would see hoarding batteries, have as many batteries as you can possibly get your hands on, may make sense. Keep them cool, cycle through them often, keep them between, like you recommend, 20 to 80% charge. That's interesting. Well, I hope that's somewhat helpful. Us just kind of thinking through this, thinking through each tool, having a battery expert on hand. Like I said, my goal in this whole Milwaukee series is to bring in experts. So that's what I'm going to be doing from here forward, is to bring in experts. I'll continue to develop more expertise around batteries and accessories and which tools I like the most and which tools are getting used the most, which ones are breaking, which ones need to be fixed, which ones don't, which ones I find myself gravitating towards. And so, in a couple of years, it'll be like pressure washers, where I'm the pressure washer guy, or so many people have dubbed me that title. And so I want to be able to do that with these tools. And then my guess is I'll probably get into some of the other brands as well. But for now, just see the dauntingness of, this is what I've chosen. So imagine what I had to go through to get to this point. So
a lot of tools, yeah.
Yeah, this is like 1 out of every 4 tools that they make, 1 out of every 5. So there's 4 more sets of this to come to this. And obviously it's pretty simple. Most of these are fuel tools. It's their best tool.
Yeah, their brushless is awesome.
Yeah, but in some cases, some of their more obscure stuff made sense. Sometimes it didn't. But they have, there's even batteries. Batteries are complicated to kind of work your way through to figure out what makes the most sense. So anyway, I'm going to keep chasing that, and I'm going to keep figuring it out. Ben and I will probably be doing a podcast here today, so make sure to go check that out. Like I said earlier in the video, go check out where we actually went through and kind of unboxed the batteries and chargers. We talked about charging and discharging, and what the recommendation is from a battery expert. What that recommendation is, and then I'll probably have some more videos personally, myself, on wrapping up on different subsets of what packages, what tools you want. We're going to come up with the OG master kit, and then we're going to also figure out how to organize these in drawers with tool grid and maybe Kaizen foam and some other storage options, and maybe even work with Sonic to have them cut some foam for our tools as well. But we're getting there. This is a huge project. So thanks for sticking with me on this. I know I've lost some of you along the way, but I think that long term, I look at this as these videos will exist forever. And some people will see value in the process of me figuring this stuff out. So thanks for watching. Thanks to Ben for the info. We'll catch you on the next one. See ya.